All right, people. So I listened to an interview Boxing King Media uploaded today where he was chatting with Unified, he's no longer undisputed, Unified heavyweight champion Oleksandr Usyk. And there was bits in that interview that I really wanted to listen to more than others. There was some big takeaways from it. He he kind of refuted the claims that he's going to be training Anthony Joshua because I think he was asked, was he the trainer? And he just said, no, Anthony is my friend. That doesn't necessarily mean you're not the trainer. You know, he didn't categorically, that I'm aware, deny it, so you never know. But he was asked about Parker and Wardley. And now, Alexander Usyk's English, it's got a lot better than it was, but there are some times when you listen to it and you're kind of like, did he say that or did he mean this? And when they asked about Parker and if Parker had won that fight, he pretty much kind of admitted that, yeah, if Joseph Parker had won that fight, then we'd likely be doing that fight next. But basically, when he was asked about Wardley, words to the effect of that fight, not so much. So maybe he doesn't see Wardley as a threat. Maybe he doesn't see any kind of real value. I think there was a kind of hint that maybe it wasn't lucrative enough or something like that, which I think is bizarre because it's arguably a more lucrative fight than the Parker fight would have been. I mean, Wardley is a bigger name, even in defeat, Wardley, or even in defeat, he would have been a bigger name. So I kind of was like, all right, maybe I was misinterpreting what he was saying with that one. But the crucial thing was Boxing King Media obviously asked Alexander Usyk, are you going to fight again next year? He said yes. Now, when he vacated that WBO title, I was thinking, oh God, I was thinking the worst. And I'm thinking, surely he's not going to go ahead with a Fury trilogy fight. And the way the conversation was going, in a sense of Boxing Media was pushing Fury Joshua as opposed to a trilogy fight with Tyson Fury. So you're thinking, okay, this is looking good. It's no mention of Tyson Fury. But then, arguably, he said something even worse. When he was asked about next year and who he would like to fight, Alexander Usyk simply stated Deontay Wilder. Yeah. Now, I'll be the first to say that I would not have accepted a trilogy fight with Tyson Fury at this point. He lost both fights pretty conclusively. It's not real. The Fury fanboys will argue, but there really is no arguing. He lost those fights convincingly. He hasn't earned a trilogy fight. He hasn't earned a title shot. He can't just click his fingers and say, I know Sullivan will try and do it, but he shouldn't be able to do that and just jump the queue. Now that's Tyson Fury. But Deontay Wilder, people, Wilder has had one win in the last 3 years against, what was the guy's name, Terrell Herndon or something like that. An obscure opponent who no one has heard of before since was knocked out, I think, in a round by F.A. Ajagba on Ajagba's pro debut, I'm pretty sure. So an obscure opponent. And Usyk wants to fight Wilder next? No, mate. You vacate the WBO title rather than... No. I get it because I guess it's kind of that, you know, it was Fury, Wilder, and Joshua. They were the kind of, for want of a better word, three kings. Right, they were the guys. It was Wilder with the WBC. Fury and Wilder were having their, their trilogy kind of thing going, and AJ was a bit frozen out, but it was AJ as well was there. They were the guys. It was those three guys at the top of the division until Alexander Usyk came along and said, "See you all later. I'm leaving you in the dust." So I get it from that sense. You kind of maybe want that, that last leg of the tripod to go, but really, Wilder. Now I say Fury hasn't earned a title shot. People, well, I was going to say at least Fury was competitive in his defeats. All right. I mean, that doesn't earn you a title shot, but he was competitive against Usyk both times. He didn't win them, but he's competitive, right? Ngannou, no. Chisora, no. Dylan White was a contender at the time, so we'll give him that one. But that's his last decent win. But Wilder again, he's been chinned by Fury twice. He chinned Hellenius in a round. He got, beaten up. Well, I wasn't really beaten up, but he got, embarrassed by Joseph Parker over 12 rounds, never looked himself, never came close to even, rocking Joseph Parker in that fight. Then he just had that horrendous occasion against Zhilei Zhang where he got brutally knocked out in the 5th round. Never seen Zhang move as quick as in his life as he did when he got Wilder hurt from that right hook. And then he fights again an obscure opponent in Terrell Herndon. That doesn't earn you a title shot. Come on, please don't. I get it. And maybe this is Oleksandr Usyk's way of being more known in the United States because I think they want to do Usyk, maybe have a day over there. And I get it. If you're looking, look, if you're going to fight in the US, right, which I think a lot of people are thinking Usyk may very well do in the new year, if you're going to fight in the US, you're going to want an opponent who is known to the US audience. Andy Ruiz, although I don't think he deserves a shot, given the fact that he's been horribly inactive over the last few years, at least he's been winning. Although I felt like he lost that fight to Jarrell Miller. Jarrell Miller would be a decent shout because he's not as famous as a Ruiz or a Wilder, but at least he's been, trying to stay active. But then there is that risk of, well, there's a lot of risk. I was going to say Salita, but there's other risk with him too. God only knows what might happen. So I get that. And then there's no one really because Anderson is not, he's hot and cold, mainly cold, and he's not, a big name. There's really no one else in the American scene. And Wilder, they'll do a rehabilitation job on him again. They'll say he's back, he's hitting harder than ever, he's doing X, Y, and Z, blah, 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 yada, yada, yada. We've heard it for the last 2 years now. We've never seen it. Even against Herndon, even though he stopped the guy, he looked a shell of himself in there. So him against Usyk, prime Wilder would have been absolutely schooled by Oleksandr Usyk, schooled. It probably wouldn't even have run around against Usyk. If Artur Spilka is making you look awkward and making you look foolish and outboxing you, people, what's Oleksandr Usyk going to do? That was Wilder in his prime. That was nearly a decade. That was a decade ago. Be a decade now. That's crazy. It's actually insane. I remember watching that knockout. I was working. I remember actually well because I went to bed that night because I was working in the gym and I was working a Sunday shift in the gym. That's where I saw the knockout. It was actually crazy. That's 10 years ago. I didn't realize that. But yeah, that was Wilder against someone similar to Usyk. But I mean, he is not even a pound shot. That's even unfortunate. You can't even say he's a pound shot, Oleksandr Usyk. He's not even close to that. Artur Spilka. Could you imagine what Usyk would do now to Deontay Wilder, whose punch resistance is probably gone, who is not looking as fast, hasn't got that aggression? It would be lamb to the slaughter. It really would. And I think, again, if you're Oleksandr Usyk, what are you hoping to do? Are you hoping to maybe just do undisputed for a third time? Let Fabio Wardley have a voluntary, let him maybe build his profile and then come in and say, all right, I'm taking that candy from you, baby. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe that's what he's trying to do. Maybe just let Wardley build his own profile up a bit more so Usyk thinks, okay, now we can go, we can do our fight. I can become, and I'd pick him handily, unless he has some serious deterioration over the next year. Serious, very serious. I'd pick him over Wilder. I'd pick him over Wardley. We could be entering 2026 a very strange year for heavyweights. We could be having Fury versus Joshua. We could be having Wilder versus Usyk. It could culminate in Usyk versus Wardley. It could culminate in there's just so many scenarios that the heavyweight division can take in 2026. But yeah, Wilder is on Usyk's mind, and that's who he wants to face. That's not good. That's not good. I mean, like, I get it from one sense. You could kind of, but I don't get it because you could easily just fight one of your contemporaries. You could easily fight if you don't want to fight Fury, fair enough. You don't have to. You're not obliged to. If you don't want to do that trilogy fight, fair enough, and I agree with you on that. Okay, Parker's lost, fair enough. You don't want to unify right now with Wardley. Fight Caballel. Frank Sanchez, no one seems to want to fight him in a final eliminator. Why don't you just fight Frank Sanchez, give him a shot then? Chisora is highly ranked. And yeah, Chisora, look, yeah, I know, but at least he's been winning. He's been fighting game. Well, he has been fighting. Like, I know Valine is useless, but, Joe Joyce came to win and he gave a good account of himself against Hrgovic next fight. Philip Hrgovic, you see what I mean? Like, it's just like, I don't get this. Why Wilder? This doesn't make sense to me. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you could, as always, people, smash the like button, hit subscribe if you haven't already. And until next time, peace.